Guys, a very special treat today. We have Neal Rummler back with us on the pod for a second round. Excited to learn from him. Yeah, dude, I mean, kind of like I know we introduced you a little bit last time, and anyone can go back and look on that, but to just give a brief introduction, Neal's started his own company. It's very successful, Maverick Marketing.
Yeah.
Just does it. It has his. We were talking right before the pod, and has his hands in a lot of different like ideas, industries, and also just a master of finance and setting up and structuring a good deal, which we're going to get into here today. But yeah, I mean, Neal, do you just want to give us a little backstory on you, just for those that are listening for the first time?
Yeah. So I grew up in California, Southern California, and after I got back from my LDS mission in Hungary, I was looking for a summer job. I lived really close to Disneyland. So I got a job at Disneyland working as a Jungle Cruise skipper. Did that for a summer, and then I looked at my paycheck. I was like, man, I only made $4,000. This was back in 2012. And I was like, there's got to be something better out there. And I heard a rumor about summer sales, and I talked to a close friend. I was like, hey, man, is this legit? He's like, yeah. So I was like, I was the laydown. I was the golden investigator, or whatever you want to call me. But I was just like, yeah, let's sign me up. What do I got to do? You think I can maybe be part of your team? He's like, yeah, I think we can make that happen. And then I sold the first summer in 2013 in California, did 3 summers out there, transitioned to the Midwest, and sold a few summers out in the Midwest. Took a break to go to law school, BYU, graduated, realized that I'd be miserable as an attorney, and then I literally graduated and drove out to Ohio and started knocking doors again. So that was funny. And then I did that for a couple more years, and then I transitioned into termite sales. Did that for a few companies for a couple years, and then transitioned and started my own marketing company where we specialize in termite upsells. So been in the industry, started in 2013, so 12, 13 years here.
That's awesome. Well, one of your gifts is you're great at structuring systems and just kind of like, I don't know, creating a good structure and environment for others and for yourself. Mm-hmm. I want to talk. We're about to roll out backends. So tomorrow, a lot of our guys are getting their very first check for kind of like what's to come for all the money they made this summer. If you had to just be an older brother to someone that's about to get that check for the first time or that first big sum of money, how would you encourage them to structure that, put that away? What could you go if you had a time machine, go back and whisper in your own ear?
Yeah. So I think the universal theme I would advocate for is delay gratification. And that's really, really hard to do in a world where we have instant gratification at our fingertips. But it's like, if you can master that principle of delaying buying that shiny toy, then you're going to get ahead. You're going to get ahead a lot faster than your peers, because the tendency in summer sales is you get this big check, and for whatever reason, guys I've seen in my years managing reps, I've managed thousands of reps, they'll get it, and it's just this sense that, oh, I'm going to be getting these kinds of checks all the time, and instead of just like, no, this is one check of 2 usually. Is that how you pay them out?
Now we do increments. We pay people out over every other week from now till through February.
So that's better, because it teaches more discipline, where it's, as opposed, when I was paid back in the day, it was 2 big checks in October and January. So that right there is already going to help the guys manage their money better when they're getting them in smaller chunks. But yeah, overall, it's like, you spend some money, like spend 10% on fun stuff. Like, just be like, okay, that's my blow it fund, like 10% on something fun. But what I hate to see is guys spending it all on a Ford Raptor just because they're told by somebody that's going to help them recruit. And it's like, is there something to that? I go back and forth on this, where it's like, it depends on who you're trying to recruit. Some people are smart enough to realize and understand. It's like, oh, he's driving a beat up old truck. He's still successful. He's just frugal. There's certain really smart people that can see through that and see past that beat up old truck. And then there's certain people that need to see something physical and tangible as evidence of your success. So I think strike a balance there. Don't get a Lamborghini. Get something that you can afford. Live within your means, and kind of like show that you're successful for your age, but don't be responsible about it, is what I would say to guys.
I like that a lot. I think a lot of times when we talk about back ends, we talk about the guy that goes out and gets the Ford Raptor. Or we talk about the guy that lives on nothing and like kind of like stacks it all well and has a big pay at the end. I think there's a lot of middle grounders though that do invest some, but they put it in odd things. Or I think there's a lot of like, what are some things or pitfalls you've seen over the years if you're like, hey, I saw a guy put some money in this and I don't know how great of a return that was. Or I've seen maybe someone move into an investment that was great and then move off of it. Have you ever seen much of that, coaching and helping? And
Yes. So the danger comes because the money comes so fast. It's like, oh, I'm always going to have this kind of money coming in, when it's like they forget how hard they had to work for that money. And so it's like easy come, easy go a little bit with the investments. And the one thing that I look back on is like, I kind of equate it to the tulip craze back in Holland, if you remember that.
No, I don't know anything. Yeah, tell me about that.
So I'm going to butcher this historically, but it's kind of a case study for poor investing. And back in Holland, there was this literal tulip craze where people were investing madly in tulips. And long story short, people pumped in all this money and it was a bubble. It came crashing down very, very quickly to where like one tulip bulb was selling for an astronomical amount of money. And then a week later, it was almost worthless. So something that I saw happen that was similar to that was with, what were those NFTs? Yeah. So like I looked at that when those first came out and I'm like, this is the stupidest thing in the world. Like you're buying a digital picture of something. Like you could just take a screenshot of that. Like what makes it so special? And then there were people that were trying to justify it and be like, no. Like it's like, it's a real thing. It's legit. Like, and I was like, no, sorry, I'm not buying into that. And now it's like what people are spending $200,000-$300,000 on a picture of a monkey. And now it's like worth pennies on the dollar.
Shout out Bored Ape Yacht Club.
Yeah, right. And so it's like there's a tendency in the door-to-door community and just people who are in sales to just like latch onto this shiny object and go chase this shiny object. And it's like if you don't understand it, or if it doesn't make sense to you in your gut, like don't do it. And like don't let some guru try to explain it and be like, oh no, dude, this is the real deal. Like the other kind of buzzword is digital real estate, and it's like I've never really bought into that. Like I don't know enough about it, I guess maybe, but my gut says it's like I want something real. I want something tangible. So that's why I've kind of steered towards just the traditional boring investments. And if you look at business too, it's like what businesses do well, no matter the state of the economy, it's those boring businesses that aren't going anywhere, like roofing, HVAC, pest control. Like if I'm going to go buy a business, I'm going to go buy one of those boring businesses because I know they're always going to be around.
Yeah.
You go chase some tech company, it's like that's a hit or miss. It could be a home run. It could be a total flop. And so if you look at, I do consulting for private equity a lot, and these research firms will contact me. And they are very, very interested in service-based companies. And you have to start to think about like, okay, well, why is that? And it's because they see the writing on the wall with AI. And it's like, okay, what can a robot not do for the next 20, 30 years? And it's those traits. It's the service-based industries. And so it's like tying this all back in, it's like getting wealthy, sometimes it's the boring, traditional tortoise and the hare scenario where it's like, the slow and steady wins the race. You stick to some boring investment strategy that's tried and tested and true. You might not get all the clicks and follows and likes and attention, but you're gonna win if you stick to what's already been proven.
Well, I like the baseball reference you made, like home runs, like base hits wins championships.
Yeah.
And I think in your investment strategy, especially early, like just having a good foundation of stuff that, like you said, it's timeless, it's not going to fail, is huge. And I think I see a lot of guys have that tendency to move in to higher risk investments, like you're saying, or the ones that everyone in the market's talking about, the ones that are, oh, there's a crazy weird return. But usually by the time you hear about the GameStop stock, it's already crashing.
Yeah.
And I think there's a big mistake there. One thing that I've also seen too is I've seen a lot of guys move into good investments, but then get impatient and try to move their money out or go into something else that is probably another good vertical or okay vertical. But what I've seen through investments is you've got to be I'm going to put this money here. I'm going to turn my head for 20 years, well, and watch it, but I'm not going to like move it or rotate it or fracture the deal, getting impatient.
Yes.
And I see a lot of that that I've seen from when I've got in to even currently. I see a lot of guys that will go into investments that have low cash flow, and then they'll have other investments that they start where they take out that investment that's high equity. They won't have enough like cash flow investments that offset it. And I think having a good balance in between both is just something that's really, really important. And I kind of want to talk with you about that too. Like, what are some investments you feel like are great equity returns, and what are some great investments that you're like, hey, I think these are great cash flow returns?
Yeah, so it depends on your state in life and how much money you have to invest. So taking myself as an example, I didn't start investing until I was 26. And it's not because I didn't have the money, it's because I just literally did not have the knowledge. I didn't have a mentor to tell me what to do. And so that's something that I'm passionate about now is like, if anybody asks me, like anybody on the street could come up to me and be like, hey man, what should I do with my money? I'll like drop everything and I'll just be like, okay, how much do you have? Let's figure this out, because I just feel like the world did me a disservice because they don't teach you this stuff in public school. And it's like, okay, what's a Roth IRA? What's a 401k? Like, what's the stock market? Like, none of those. I didn't have answers to those until I took an accounting class in BYU when I was 26. And I was like, oh, dude, Roth IRA, this is the greatest thing in the world.
Yeah.
And it's like, some people will hear this and laugh and be like, oh, what a nerd. And it's like, but when you actually look at it and you plug in these numbers of what is possible, then it's crazy. You'd be dumb not to do it as soon as possible. And so I would say, like, start as soon as you can. Like, pay yourself first is what Robert Kiyosaki says. You've got to pay yourself first. Treat investing like if you've ever had a W-2 wage, taxes are sucked out immediately. And people don't really question that. They're just like, oh, it's just part of life. And it's like, that's how investing should be. You should take all emotion out and automate your investing. That's what I tell young guys is like, just make it so that whenever you're paid, automatically funds get sucked out and transferred into a Roth IRA. That's the first thing you can do. I think you can do $7,000 a year per individual, and there's obviously caps for income. But then, if you're married, you can do two contributions of $7,000, so $14,000 a year if you're married, and that grows tax free. And you pull it out tax free. So it was created for young people, and a lot of people just don't know about Roth IRAs. So it's like, what is a Roth IRA? It's just a fancy vehicle to put money that the government created to help you have money in retirement. And so it's like, okay, what do I invest in? What can you put into a Roth IRA? It's like, yes, you can buy individual stocks, you can buy mutual funds, but what I tell guys is like, look, just put it in the S&P 500. S&P 500, for those that don't know, it's just the top the 500 biggest companies in the U.S. And it's like the historical return on that is what, 10-12%. If you put $6,000-$7,000 a year into that for 40 years, you're going to be a millionaire. Like, it's inevitable, right? And so that's the first step that I tell guys to do is like start a Roth IRA. It's not hard. There's a lot of different platforms you can do, and then automate it. So you take all the emotion out of it. That's where guys get in trouble, is when they react to the market. And they're like, oh shoot, everyone's buying or everyone's selling. It's like, when you're doing what everyone else is doing, you're gonna get screwed. You're gonna lose. But if you automate it, it's a strategy called dollar cost averaging. It's basically a fancy term for buying stock at different times, but you're automating it. So it's like, some people do it every 2 weeks, some people do it once a month. But that's the strategy I recommend, is dollar cost average. Do the math of what you need to contribute to max out your, they call them tax advantage accounts. So Roth IRA, you can also do a solo 401 solo Roth 401k. You can contribute, I believe, $24,000 into that in 2026. So there's a lot of things you can do, and I could go down into the nitty gritty of all of this, but it's like, that's where I recommend guys start, because it's easy, it's passive. That's as far as like equity investments. For real estate, I've actually, I have 2 rental properties right now, and in Cleveland, Ohio. These are $100,000 to $115,000 properties. I found a company that will go in, fix them, make them turnkey ready. They'll place a tenant for you,
Wow.
and they'll cash flow anywhere from $300 to $500 a month. The buy-in is about 30 to 40,000. So the cash on cash return is pretty decent there.
Yeah.
So I have stocks in tax advantage accounts. That's what I have. And then I also I've diversified into some real estate, and I recently have invested in some gas stations because there's a lot of really, really awesome tax benefits investing into gas stations with the big, beautiful bill that was just passed. So that produces some crazy depreciation. Every dollar you invest into gas stations via a strategy called triple net leasing produces 200 to 210% in depreciation. So it's a very,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's a relatively new thing, and I'm investing with a group called Harris Investment Group. They're local here in Utah. They've been in business about 15 years, and there is nothing better in terms of tax advantages than that exists currently. So that's just an overview of what I'm doing.
Well, and as you talk about all those different investments, and I hope that people got everything out of that they could, because you dropped a lot of bombs there. But I like what you talked about, kind of like taking it back to like the root and getting it on an Excel sheet. I think a lot of times one of the pitfalls I see too is people get caught up in what the idea is, or like how it sounds, or does it look sexy. Mm-hmm. And I think with investments, every time you got to be able to take it back. Okay, how does this look if I had an Excel document out and I'm taking out my inflows and my outflows? And I think a lot of times what guys do is they just get caught up in the idea or the moment of like, this is a house, or this is my XYZ, or they tie up their identity into their investment a little bit, mm-hmm. which I think to some degree that's healthy. But I think a lot of times too, you kind of have to be able to look back at this and just be like, okay, is this at its level going to help me increase my cash flow? Is this going to be a long-term equity play? Like, what's the long story that I'm trying to go at here? And I think a lot of times people in investing don't do a great job of that, or they just get caught up in what everyone else is doing and go along with the ride.
Yeah, I'd also say, and add to that, lack of execution. They like the idea, but then when push comes to shove, they just don't do it.
Yeah,
it's like, guys, like, you're good at selling, like, just take a second, sit down at a computer. And sometimes I've had to do this literally for guys where they come over to my house, like, okay, we're setting up a Roth IRA for you. Let's do this. And they're like, okay. And sometimes you know, if that's you, if I'm speaking to you and that's your personality, know yourself enough to get a mentor, seek out a mentor and somebody that's going to hold you accountable, because it's like nobody's going to come to save you when you're 65. You know, it's like the goal here is like, I want to shift the mindset among young people of like, hey, you don't have to go work for 40 years and then retire. Like, grind in your 20s, invest in your 30s so that you can be done when you're 40. That's the new pitch that I would love to see implemented among young people, because it's like, then when you have a financially independent and free society, it's like there's more innovation, there's more growth that's going to happen, and you know, you're going to have a happier citizenry and a happier population when you have more financially independent people. They can focus on more philanthropic things that are like going to actually benefit the world. So that's kind of like my nerd passion project is finances and teaching guys about this kind of stuff. Because how many people, you know, you go walk on UVU campus or anywhere, it's like you ask people these questions, how many people even know what a Roth IRA is? Like, and what compound interest is, like how that works. Like I don't know, because I haven't done it, but my gut says not enough people know about it.
Yeah.
And investing in general.
So with going along with all that, would you say kind of like I like what you talked about, like just taking action and like investing or taking the first step. I think a lot of times guys get so like analysis paralysis of sitting too long, just being like, should I do something? Or the best time with most things like real estate, the S&P 500, the best time was yesterday to typically get in, to start and make something happen. And so I think that's an important thing to just realize too, is like your time or the money you have today, implementing it will do dividends tomorrow as long as you can put it away at a good rate. I guess what are some with the homes that I've got, or the businesses I've invested in, or just kind of like different places where I've put my money. I've always kind of like I feel like pretty good people around me that kind of coach me or push me into things. Who are some people maybe along your way or your path that you're like, I ran into this person. They enlightened my mind a lot on this. This is some great references for anyone that's listening. Who are some like mentors or maybe or great thought leaders that you're like, I would recommend this if you're looking to put away your back end?
Yeah, so I would say, general rule of thumb, you should not be taking financial advice from people who have a lower net worth than you. Reach out to people and hang out with people who are wealthier than you, and ideally people who have 10x your net worth at least, because they're going to be there's different strategies that you're going to need to employ at different levels of wealth. So it's like when you first start in summer sales, you're making, depending on how well you do, 30 to 60 grand your first summer. You're not going to use the same strategies of somebody that made $1 million. There's different strategies that will come in, and it's like, depending on who you talk to, they're going to have already experienced most of those strategies and utilize them because they're hanging around people and they're paying accountants, they're paying lawyers who are telling them these strategies and kind of loopholes and ways to game the system, I guess. And so it's been a combination of people. It's like, I wouldn't say it's like one person has told me all these strategies. It's just stuff that you kind of fall into as you start talking with people who are worth more, because you start to have similar problems of like, oh shoot, like my tax bill is going to be $500,000. What do I do? And then it's like, oh yeah, like here's my accountant, go talk to her. Like she's really aggressive. I go talk to this accountant and her tax strategy is completely different from my tax accountant who somebody else told me was really good. And then so like I fire my old accountant and I get this other lady that's way better. And it's like I wouldn't have hired that new accountant had I not been hanging out with this other guy that's making way more money than me. So it's like, don't hang around losers. Like hang around people who are doing well, because it's gonna rub off on you. The stuff that they're doing with their money, their investments, their tax strategies, all of that, you're gonna just learn it by hanging out with them. So if your parents are telling you what to do and they're not like multimillionaires, like take that with a grain of salt. Like seek out people who are actually wealthy that have done what you want to do. Like if you want to own a business, go talk to a business owner that's already made it. And then they're going to be able to tell you like, oh yeah, you got to watch out for this milestone, you're going to run into these problems. And so it's like seeking out mentors, networking is huge, but make sure you have the right mentors and you're listening to the right people, because there's a lot of fake people out there. There's a saying called big hat, no cattle. There's a lot of those types of people out there.
I like that saying. And there are a lot of those guys out there. I want to talk about living below your means, because everyone that like invests or puts money away, they're really good, or at least for several years or for an extended period of time, they lived on a lot less than they were bringing in. And for me, when I look back at like my glory days of like pest control or owning my business or anything like that, some of my favorite days are when I was putting every penny back into the business. I was eating like free food at like some church event or and like I still feel like though it's like people look at that and it's just like work, kill yourself. I still had great times during those times when I had nothing. Like I still had a very fun, enjoyable lifestyle surrounded by good people. But what would you say are important things through that period? Because we're talking about a lot of the end of the rainbow or what it will look like. But how does someone get through those dog days? Like what are things that maybe you did, or how, like, does that make sense, my question?
Yeah, so you're asking like what are some strategies to kind of grin and bear it through tough times?
Yeah, or
okay.
Yeah, and maybe what are some things that you ran into?
So there's a tendency, I think, especially here in Utah, of this it's affluenza. So people are so wealthy, it's just like they don't experience hardship, and there's this expectation sometimes with young people. They want everything that their parents have, and it's like they forget. It's like, hey, your parents worked for years to get to this point. It's going to take some time. You're going to have to be patient and realize that if you're willing to live now like no one else, later you can live like no one else. And have a lifestyle that nobody else can live, because most people are on the trajectory of go to school, get a degree, get a job. And it's like the tax system, the way that it's written, is rigged against middle class people. It's totally in favor of business owners. And it's just like doing what you did, being frugal for a very short time, you're very close to being at a point where you will never have to worry about money again, right? And so it's just like you have to have that long-term perspective, and you know, I think having a mentor coach you through some of those hard times is like, hey man, this really sucks. You call someone up, like someone calls you up and they're like, hey Dawson, this really sucks. I'm sick of eating ramen noodles or whatever that you're going through. It's like, hey man, I remember those days. It'll be okay. It's going to be okay. It's a momentary inconvenience right now, and it's going to pay huge dividends later on in life. It's just, I know it's really hard for you to realize and understand that right now. But I promise you, if you keep living like this, you're going to have, you know, an amazing, amazing life that nobody else is going to have in a few years from now. So it's just that discipline to just see it through and embrace the suck sometimes.
Yeah, and a little extra tahini on the ramen noodles.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love it. Well, and that's the funny thing. I think a lot of times too, even really successful people, when they've created a business or they've had several years of like putting their money away, they're still living in a very like below their means like lifestyle. Like I remember someone my dad was working for years ago. I asked him about like his boss and what he was like, and he said he lives far below his means. And he still, like I met him, I kind of got to know his lifestyle and stuff. He still lived a great life, and I felt like he was enjoying things. But I think it's really good to live like that, because you're way more connected to what actually matters the most, living below your means without a ton of excess around you, or just the excess is being redistributed to the right things and right people to keep it growing.
Yeah.
I actually, well, just as you were talking, I was thinking about even like one of my stories. I actually haven't owned a personal car for 2 years now. Which sounds crazy, but about 2 years ago, at the end of the summer came, and I needed to get 3 new trucks for my business. And the only way they were going to give it to me is if I gave them my car, so that I could keep technicians on the road.
Uh-huh.
And so I sold it. And what's funny is every time I've went to go get a new car, we always need a new truck for the business. So instead of like getting my own, I typically get one to keep my pest control business.
Smart.
Yeah, thriving.
Because the tax code lets you write it off.
Yeah. Whereas a lot of people, I think they're like, well, because you've made it to a certain point or stuff like that, you need to take care of yourself. Whereas I think that's like, yes, in theory, you always make sure you do have enough, and you can, but you also too, in order to grow, you have to be willing to go all in and throw the kitchen sink back at your investment to keep things going sometimes.
Yep.
So
I agree 100%.
Cool. Well, I feel like we've done a really good job talking about like investing and coming up and stuff like that. Let's talk about building a network, a team for the following year. We're kind of we're getting close to vacation time, or like kind of off season.
Yeah.
And I've found that the guys that are the most successful, they do take a small break. They will go on a vacation. They will take some time off, but they're also working diligently through this time to build a great team. What are some things you do every year in the transitioning to the off season to go build the Avengers?
Yeah, so I think it's good to recharge the batteries. I think after the summer, you know, it's like it's a good mental health break where you're just like, hey, I'm gonna go unplug. Like I recommend like getting off your phone, like maybe just like turning off your phone for a week or two is very healthy. Because the summer is very chaotic. It's a sprint. There's a lot of moving parts. It's crazy. And then recharge the batteries. But when you come back, the ones that treat it like a real job rather than like, oh, I'll just see what happens, those are the ones that are most successful, who create a schedule around recruiting. And it's like people, when you ask them, like if you ask the average door-to-door recruiter, like, how much time do you spend on recruiting? Oh, I spend so much time. Like I spend 30, 40 hours a week. If you actually tracked most of those guys and how many hours they spent recruiting, it's probably closer to 10. So 1/3 of whatever you think you're doing, it's
10
probably
10 might be generous too.
Yeah, it's depending on the rep, right? It's like it's always more than you think, because we're salespeople. We inflate stuff, we exaggerate. It's like that's what we do, and so it's like holding yourself accountable there. If you like actually track. And then what helps you even more at that point is like if you can objectively break it down and like, okay, how many people can I sign when I dedicate this many hours to recruiting? How many signed recruits does that produce? And then you like monetize that, and it's like, okay, how much am I making off of a recruit? You can break down what your hourly rate is worth. And then you can be like, okay, if I triple the amount of time I put into recruiting, I could potentially triple my income. It's like guys aren't thinking like that, because it's like the way most sales guys are hardwired is not to be analytical. It's like more of like they're the people pleasers, and like they're good with people, they're charismatic, they're confident. They get caught up on the details, and it's like very rare to find a person that has both of those attributes, where they're analytical and also they have that people gene. And so it's like, if you break it down, treat it like a real job, you're going to be really, really successful. And just be organized. If you struggle with organization, hire somebody to help you with organization, or hold you accountable with organization and keeping an Excel spreadsheet of your recruits. Like, there's so many things. I mean, you could do multiple podcasts on this, on just recruiting and like how to be more efficient about it. But I would say at first, you just gotta treat it like a real job. Because if you're in school or whatever, it's like, I get you have other responsibilities, but it's like the more time you put into it and the more time you track it, the more successful you're going to be.
Let's talk about going away for a sec. Like, I really like what you said there, but I just popped in my head. What do you like on these podcasts? It's not popular, I think, to talk about like your off time or your downtime or stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But like, how necessary has that been for you to expand your business, to like go away, to then come back? And what are the things that you think are pillars to create one, just not a great business, but a good life?
I'm really bad at this. This is one of my weaknesses, where it's like, it's hard for me to completely unplug, because there's always something that needs to get handled, or a fire that needs to be put out. Sometimes they're small, sometimes they're bigger. And so I was just on vacation in Destin, Florida, but I was still working, And so now I have a business. I'm the CEO. I'm the owner. So it's like, there's certain things that I can't completely walk away from. But if you're still recruiting, I think you're in a position where it's more realistic for you to completely walk away and just completely unplug. And I think doing that is really beneficial, just because, like I said, it's so chaotic. But when you're doing that, it's helpful to kind of like have like a meditative self-reflection period of like what you're really trying to accomplish. Because after a few summers, money no longer becomes as big of a motivator, and it's like you have to figure out what the why is, the bigger why, or your bigger picture of like, hey, why am I actually doing this? Is it because I like seeing reps grow and like sharing the wealth, developing other people, helping them learn the skills to become wealthy? Whatever that why is for you, you need to go figure that out. And have a bigger purpose. I'd say is like, it's got to be bigger than the money, because I've seen reps burn out when money is the main motivator.
Yeah,
it only gets you so far, and it's like, if you don't have something bigger that's tied to that, you're gonna crash and burn, or you're gonna do really well for a little bit, and then you're gonna get streaky. You're gonna have a slump, and you're gonna go up and down. And so it's like, figuring out that why is the first step of like what kind of you want to accomplish here in life. And taking that time, I think after a summer is a great time to do that self-reflection. Like, get out in nature, go somewhere where you can connect with the world, free of distractions, is really helpful, I think. And a lot of people don't take that time, and they're just caught up in the noise of social media and like current events. And I do think it's essential. I would say it's essential in this day and age to reconnect with nature and figure out what you want to do and what you want to accomplish in life, and then channel that energy. Once you figure out and you have that clarity, channel that energy into focus and discipline with whatever you're doing. If it's in door-to-door, hey, do the best you can do in door-to-door. Be the best manager, be the best trainer you can do. It has to be something like that, where it shifts to excellence, I think, because it's like the money, it's like, you're going to check that box. If you're in door-to-door and you're successful, you're going to check that money box at some point in your life much earlier than other people. And you have to have that bigger why to have that, continual motivation, because it's going to die out otherwise.
I like a lot of what you said there, and I think money needs to be a secondary motivator. It can't be primary, is basically what I'm getting at. And I think a lot of times when young guys are starting out, the money, what's really behind it, the primary motive is to be a man that can create and provide and stuff like that. But then once you're able to do a little bit of that for yourself, you need to quickly transition it off that to creating lives for other people, or a good path in a situation. Because if you don't, I think you can just you're so blind to so many other things that so many other creative entrepreneurs can see, because they have their heart aligned with money's a secondary thing that helps me get my primary goal. So I like that a lot. I think that's a great tip. I guess one of the things I kind of want to talk about to make this like maybe a little bit more digestible for like a first year or guy like that's starting out. What are some things that maybe like you encourage people just starting, whether they're starting in a termite position, a pest controller? What are some things that if I'm deciding right now that I'm going to go out and sell or be a part next summer, that you're like, these are rudimental things that you need to have in your repertoire from now until March or April or whatever it is?
Yeah, I think you need to clearly define your goals of what you want to accomplish, because everyone says if you could have a goal setting meeting in a room, it's like, oh, I want to sell 500 accounts, and it's like, okay, do you actually know what that takes? Like, do you know how many people actually do that in the industry? Like, okay, that's like the top 1% of the industry. Like, are you top 1% in anything you do right now? Like, you can have people ground you very early on and be like, hey man, like let's set goals like after the first week or so. But like, I think having at least a financial goal of like, hey, I want to make X amount, can help people as a good starting point, because then it's like, okay, you can have somebody tell you what you need to do to hit that. Like I signed on very early my first year selling. I signed on right around this time in October, and I was like almost at every single preseason training that I could be at, because I was like, I don't want to leave anything up to chance. Like I want to be prepared. But it's like, how many people are actually doing that? I think it's gotten better in certain recent years where guys, they understand the importance of preseason more. But when I was doing it, it was most guys just showed up and like figured it out. And it was, they would have that first 2 weeks of just getting punched in the face figuratively, and sometimes literally. No, I'm just kidding. Nobody I know ever got punched, but yeah, no, it's like clearly define your goals, and then don't take preseason training seriously, because the amount of training you put in now is just going to make your life so much easier when you get out there. Because yes, like experience on the doors is the best. That's the best experience you can get. But if you can simulate that as much as possible, you're going to be better prepared and like more confident and more resilient going into the summer, as opposed to just trying to go out there and figure it out. Because it's like, okay, pest control, the sale is not that hard. It really isn't. It's not rocket science. It's a very simple sale. There's maybe 10, 15 objections that someone might hear. And as long as you have those rebuttals memorized, ready to go, it's like there's only so many avenues the sale can go. And if you have that prepared, ready to go up here, you're gonna just have a much better quality of life once you hit the actual summer selling season. So clear goals and train in the preseason.
I like it a lot. Okay, now let's jump forward to your story today. What's the greatest lesson you feel like you learned this year in this industry?
Err on the side of generosity when you can. The reason I say that is I've seen managers nickel and dime reps over stuff, and reps are emotional. So it's like, this is more speaking to managers, and it's like, if you want to nickel and dime people, that's your choice, but just understand that people won't always remember what you say, but they will always remember how you make them feel. And so the emotional consequences of that $25 expense, whatever that might be, that you're going to expense a rep, is it really worth it? Or is it better to be generous and make those emotional deposits? And it's like, the lesson I've learned is, it's like, when I can, it's better to err on the side of generosity. So like an example for me is like, a guy was very close to hitting his mark for earning rent. Hey, I'm gonna go ahead and give that guy a solid and exercise some grace, and I'm gonna cover his rent. Because the loyalty that builds, and appreciation and gratitude this isn't for every rep, because some reps will still turn their nose up to something like that. But it's like you also identify who you want to work with long term and how they respond to that generosity.
Yeah.
So I would say be generous when you can.
I like that a lot. There's a quote that reminds me of Abraham Lincoln said, "I've always found that mercy bears richer fruits than strict justice." And I think if you really want to get ahead in business, you have to have those when it almost feels like a 50-50 call, you have to have a really good nose of when it's time to be graceful and show some mercy to someone. And the best business owners that I know are really, really good at that moment. So I think it's a great note to end on. Dude, Neal, thank you so much for coming on. Always appreciate catching up, talking to you. It's nice to be with a like-minded person. So,
yeah. Thanks for having me.